And today I'm joined by my friend and founder of SearchLab, Mark Bealin. SearchLab is a Chicago-based digital marketing agency. Obviously, the SEO space is being completely flipped upside down right now with all the LLMs. What shift are you guys making?
You could look at this as there's threats, or this is like an opportunity. And I think there's a lot more opportunity than there are threats.
You just keep hearing people, SEO's dead. This stuff still works if done right with the right partner.
I'll show you like 2012 SEO is dead articles. This is like Hyman Roth in Godfather. He's been dying from the same heart attack for forever.
Been dying of the same heart attack for 20 years.
Give me the scariest founder moment that you've ever had.
Learning how to stand up a sales organization because the whole thing that had gotten us there was gone. And those were really scary days because I did not know what I was doing. What should I do if I want to be an entrepreneur? I'm like, try going out to lunch by yourself and see if you like yourself. That happens. Like, you're going to have to be by yourself deciding things alone in isolation an awful lot.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Life's a Pitch. Before we get into today's episode, I need you to do me a huge favor. Whatever platform you're on, so Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, make sure to follow or subscribe. I know everybody always says that, but for a newer show like this, one subscriber genuinely makes a huge difference. All right. That's my ask. Let's get to our amazing guest for today's show. Today, I'm joined by my friend and founder of SearchLab, Mark Bealin. SearchLab is a Chicago-based digital marketing agency he started back in 2017. Under his leadership, SearchLab has won Microsoft Advertising's 2022 Global Emerging Partner of the Year Award. They've won 3 U.S. Search Awards, a U.S. Agency Award, and has landed on the Inc. 5000 list 4 years in a row. Mark's been in the search marketing world for over a decade and is a sought-after speaker on SEO, paid search, and entrepreneurship. He's active with Mercy Home for Boys and Girls Club and is an active Chicago EO chapter member. And I think the most important thing, he was the runner-up at the Valley Low member guest golf outing in 2024. Mark, what's up, man?
That is the most important bona fide of all, for sure. It's great to be with you. It's good to do one of these with a friend, so I'm excited.
If anybody actually realized how long it took me to get through that intro, I always struggle with the intro for some reason. I think it's probably because I don't have it memorized and I'm trying to read it. But very impressive background, Mark. Obviously, you and I have been friends for a few years. Let's jump into one thing that I think is crazy about you is just how much you've got going on, right? So dad, most important. Incoming EO Chicago president, which I know is a ton of work. And that's how I know you, is through the EO community. And we've obviously developed a friendship over the years. Football coach, didn't even talk about that in the intro. Football coach and CEO doing 30 plus speaking engagements a year. Like, how in the hell do you make all of that work together?
Yeah, it's a lot. So probably have ADD is the short answer. And, you know, like I overcommit and do a lot, but it has made for a very rich life. So yeah, all of those things are true. My recent passion is I do a bunch of like endurance events. And so I just
didn't even have that
mountain, and I'm like going to run the Timberline Trail here coming up. So that takes a lot of time too, just to train for all that stuff. But I don't know. It's been an amazing experience. One of the things that I really try to do, emphasize my calendar. So it's not rocket science, but I put everything that I want to accomplish onto my calendar at the beginning of the year. And I have different buckets of my life that I really think are very important. So they're the buckets that you'd think. What are my financial goals? What are my business goals? What are my fitness goals? What are my family and marriage goals? And it really is actually interesting once you've done that to see how many things you say no to. So because they're all on my calendar, I just can't do a lot of other things. And so one of the really important things for me is, you know, my impact bucket. And so EO is really important to me. Coaching football is really important to me. My involvement in Mercy Home for Boys and Girls, that you mentioned at the outset, thank you for that, is really important to me. And what I do is I set a goal at the beginning of the year. I want to go to 80% of the football activities. I want to, you know, do this with EO. I want to contribute X amount of dollars to Mercy Home for Boys and Girls. And then it's been an amazing experience to actually watch those things get ticked off. And what it actually is surprising as this is, I probably just say no to a lot of other things now because it's not in my goals. It's not one of the things that I have here. And to manage work, it's just basically I put in all of my adventures, everything that I want to accomplish, all my family vacations, everything that needs to get done with EO, everything that needs to get done with Mercy Home, and then work colors in the rest. So the first thing that goes is all of the things that fill my soul.
Yeah. Well, that's good. But I got to imagine as a founder, myself being included, like there was probably a point in time where you were like, I can't deal with any of that right now. I've got to build this business to where it is, which was causing you stress until you opened up and realized like the more that I can fill these buckets, the better the company is doing. Like what was that point in building SearchLab where you were like, I have to pump the brakes and fill these other buckets?
Yeah,
you allowed yourself to do that.
Yeah, that's a great point. So there's a good EO has been really huge for me, as you know, and like we're buddies from that organization. But for the listeners, like EO is it's entrepreneurs organization. You have to have founded your company or have a 50% ownership stake or a majority ownership stake if you have multiple partners, something like that. And it's so exhilarating. I love it. I like all the people. Virtually every single person in EO I enjoy talking to. But when I first joined EO, I was working like 80 hours a week. I mean, we wouldn't have golfed. Like I wouldn't have been any kind of fun because I was.
You wouldn't be the runner-up.
I wouldn't be the runner-up.
Champion
Exactly.
2024.
So I was on the org chart. I was every position. I was the CFO, I was the CEO, I was the COO, I was the director of SEO, director of PPC, everything. And I had run that company about as far as I could, just through sheer force of will, right? Like it was like I got it over $1 million, barely got into EO. You have to make $1 million to get into EO. And then the next year I made $1 million again, basically, essentially like 1.2, 1.4. Like I barely grew. And I thought it was so hard to make $1 million. I thought like from there, it'd just be sky's the limit. And so once I joined EO, one of the things that was really interesting is you join a forum for 3 or 4 hours plus dinner afterwards, you're completely out of your business. And I remember going into forum with my phone in my hand, like shaking, like I can't be out of this business for 3-4 hours. You don't understand. Like it's too fragile. And so I would walk in and be like all frazzled, talk to my team and be like, you guys are going to have to figure this out. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And walked into and expected mass chaos when I got back, and it went fine. And then
the house was
not
on fire.
I learned a little bit more about delegating. I learned a little bit more from that, and that was a forcing function for me to just really let go and be like, okay, I'm actually the fucking problem. I'm the problem here, and I'm probably not doing any of those jobs very well because they're only getting 8% of my time and energy. Even if I'm working like a maniac, I'm just not capable with 10% of my energy to do all those jobs. And so little by little, I learned skills. I learned read books. I, got coaches and really became very good at delegating. And now I'm to the point where it's really great for me to come in. I think people love having me in my company, but after a while, it's good for me to get away because I'm just a bull in a china shop sometimes. And it's not always helpful for me to be around all the time. So this has actually been helpful for the leaders to step up and take charge here.
That's great. Good background. I think that's where a lot of what I'm struggling with right now is I have the benefit of having 2 other co-founders that are doing a lot of the work, but still whenever I'm, you and I played golf last week, pulling away for a few hours is still, could I be doing something else? But at the same time, I have to remind myself this is a release. This is something that needs to be done is to keep me functional. So filling up that bucket. Let me ask you this. I'm going to jump into niching down. And this is an area where my company's at right now. We've got to find a niche. I think it's the riches in the niches. I think that's been beat a lot. But all the niche stories that you hear are hey, that's what got me off this plateau is we niched down. And when we niched down, shit got real. Our revenue climbed, right? When did you actually realize that you'd become the car dealership agency? What was that? Was that intentional from the beginning? Did you wake up and say oh shit, what do we do now? What was that cause to get you the niche? I think I know the answer to this. We've talked about it. Did you trip and fall into that
Yeah, it's a sort of an accident. My joke is that when I was 7 years old, I wanted to sell Google Ads to car dealers, and here I am. Like it was not exactly how I sketched it out. But when we first started the agency, if your money was green, I'd take it. Like we did website design and development, we did organic social media marketing, we did SEO of all kinds, PPC, and I've talked about this on other podcasts, but I had a client who's still my client today who said, Mark, if I asked you to reshingle my roof, you'd say yes. Like anything to get money. That was the idea. And fortunately, this is a story about coaches, and coaches can be very helpful to you because they can see the forest from the trees. Like I was so head down in the work. I wasn't watching patterns and so you're like, I ended up was doing work for people and we weren't even making money on it. And it was a pain in the ass client. And like, I don't know, it was, so like we started a group, like what are our best performing campaigns that we're really proud of the work, where the clients are really happy. They're not wearing out my team. What are the ones that could like maybe win us an award, like the ones you mentioned at the beginning? And they all kind of were local SEO campaigns and local PPC campaigns. And so what was interesting was I was really trying to get on the speaking circuit at that time. And I was just getting turned down left and right. Like I didn't have anything worth, I had a good job title, but like nobody knew my agency. It was really, really early days. But I had this sense that being on speaking stages was going to be integral to our ability to grow. And so once I became a local SEO and I had a thing, instead of being a generalist, I was a specific thing. You could kind of put me in this speaking slot. I started to get opportunities to talk. And so from there, I met people at conferences who were even better, better than me at this and had a love for it. And we were able to attract them to my agency. So famously like Greg Gifford and Mark Irvin and Dane Seville now, Susan Yen, Ashley Segura. These are all people who are really, really well known in the speaking circuit. They came aboard, but really what happened was I became interesting. Nobody wanted to hear from me when I was just a generalist talking about everything under the sun. Once I had a really carved out area that I was truly an expert in, I became more interesting, and it allowed us to solve more problems. The answer to how we ended up in automotive was once we hired Greg, he had already been in automotive, and so we got a huge benefit from hiring him. We started to hire very, very critical hire was Don Ramsey, who had worked with Greg at a separate automotive industry. And so we knew how to the lingo, we knew how to talk about things. And then we educated our team. And so the really big benefit was I don't have to learn that much about, if you have a Honda dealership, I have like a handful of questions, but I know the models, I know generally the pain points. I know the lingo that you're going to use. I know what fixed ops versus variable means. I know like all that stuff. And so does everybody on my team. So the onboarding is much faster. The experience is much better. And like we've forgotten more than most people will know about that particular vertical. Yep. So it's been hugely valuable for us.
I'm glad you talked about the speaking stuff. That was something I was going to bring up. But so with what you're doing now, I mean, obviously the SEO space is being completely flipped upside down. In the playbook, and you tell me if I'm wrong with this assumption, the playbook that you were running a few years ago needs to be updated right now. Like, what's the move right now with all the LLMs and SEO? Like, what shift are you guys making, if any? And how much has that impacted your business?
Yeah, it's a really interesting time. And I mean, like we could talk about this specific topic for the entirety of the podcast. So what I would tell you is there's like, you could look at this as there's threats. There's like all sorts of things. Search traffic is shrinking, or you could see this as like an opportunity. And I think there's a lot more opportunity than there are threats. So as we look at it, it's a very interesting, it reminds me of the early days of SEO where there isn't really long range studies on how an LLM is going to like help a business appear. So we're seeing an opportunity in what's like AI SEO or GEO, it's sometimes called. And we've made a policy internally to be like, we'd rather be late and right than first and early. And it's amazing that I think that's not the norm. I think a lot of people are just off and running and they're selling stuff that is Like, I don't know what's proven. And then the other side of it is a lot of the best practices right now are what SEOs have done for a long time: create good content, differentiation, entity search. Like, you hear these things that are like, oh, this is an AI SEO tip, and it's really like that was the same thing we were doing before. What I will say is really different. Like, what has changed a lot, to your point, is we are in a different age in terms of attribution than we had been in before. So for most of my career, I mean, until in the grand scheme of things, like 5 years ago, and I started in 2007 doing this stuff, you could look at traffic to your website, like organic traffic, as a great leading indicator of success. Well, there's like not going up anymore, but a very common story is organic traffic is flat or down, conversions are up or like flat. And so how did that happen? And what we're having to do now is live in a world where there's just not as much attribution data. I don't know how they found your website. I don't know how was it an LLM? Was it SEO? Our ability to tell that story with data, which has always been a calling card of SearchLabs and really my focus in 2007, is really up in the air now because I don't know how to stitch the whole thing together. Fortunately for us, we're in local SEO, which is really determined by, like, they have a grid of the entire world on a map now. And, I think an LLM is going to have a hard time doing that. And if they did, they would probably just train on Google Maps or Apple Maps or something like that, something that already exists. So we're in a nice place where we're a little bit protected from like a lot of SEOs I think are in jeopardy right now. But also I see a lot of opportunity for us to solve problems on these LLMs. What it means is it becomes much more of a conversion focused metric. Like, where are you getting your conversions from? And I'm talking about like Google Maps, Google SERPs, LLMs, to the extent that we can measure it, Apple Maps, everywhere along the line. We want to be able to measure that because the leading indicators that have always been true are no longer telling the story that they used to tell. It just doesn't work that way. And local ranking results haven't been really valuable for a while because in local, like, rankings can shift from block, like in downtown Chicago, they can shift from block to block where you're ranking. So all of this to say, it becomes more important to have conversions. It becomes more important to like have like a really good human touch with your clients. Like what I don't think an AI can do is, I don't think that they can have like a high touch service like an agency like mine would have. And I don't think that if you really want to have a differentiated strategy, you should go to an LLM. That knocking out the tasks, knocking out like what you actually have to do, those automations are exciting. And again, I see opportunity. For strategy, I wouldn't go to an LLM because I just think it's using all of the crowdsourced data. You're going to get the same strategy as everybody else. And the whole point of marketing is differentiation. So I would say strategy and account management are still like very, very important to me. And that's a long-winded way of answering your question. And I could keep rambling in this if you'd like.
No, it makes sense. I get it. I think that some of the stuff that you mentioned, especially with the local SEO, I think plays in your guys' favor for sure. That's no doubt. But you just keep hearing people, SEO's dead. I'm not spending money on SEO anymore. And it's like, is that really like everything's dead? You always hear, oh, this is dead, that's dead. This stuff still works if done right with the right partner.
Yeah. I'll show you like 2012 SEO is dead articles. This has been like the longest death. This is like Hyman Roth in Godfather. He's been dying from the same heart attack for forever. It's like, yeah, like I still think there's going to be a lot of traffic to search engines. Like, I don't think that's going away. The likelihood, if you wanted me to like prognosticate, which is not your question, but I think Google has a lot of advantages in this AI race with Gemini. So like, they have the most data. They have a bottomless pit of money. They have great engineers. There's a reasonable chance that Gemini comes out ahead, and that's the company that we know very well. So
you and I talked about this briefly, but remind me again. So maybe I misread this or whatever, but I read something that Google was completely changing for the first time. Like it's the most drastic change they're going to be making to its user interface. And it has to do with the search bar. Are they switching the search bar over where the primary is now going to be the Gemini AI bar?
I have not seen that yet. The gossip in rumor mill is rampant that like AI mode, which is one of the modes that
I read it on LinkedIn, so it's got to be true.
It's got to be true, right? Yeah. So, but AI mode would become the default and sort of your legacy. But the SERP has been so different than what it was. I mean, like, there's way more features now. There's more zero click. The ads look like organic. I mean, it's been evolving for a while. I just think this is a continuation of something that's been going on for a period of time. And we'll see. Like today, I don't see AI mode as the default. This is information good from here to the door. It could change at any point. So.
Yes. All right, cool. Let's switch it. As much as I love talking about SEO, we go down that rabbit hole. Let me ask you a question. So you've run a business for quite some time. You've struggled to get, north of $1 million in revenue for some time. Give me the scariest founder moment that you've ever had. Like that moment where you were genuinely like, shit, this is not going to work. And that feeling when you were backed into a corner, like how did you survive it?
Yeah, there's a couple stories that come to mind. So to give you some background, this is the second agency I've founded. I co-founded a different agency, and we all came out of a company called Local Launch, who was owned by RH Donnelly. None of this information is very important other than RH Donnelly made the Yellow Pages. So my whole career has been watching a shift from print over to digital. And so in the early days of SearchLab, we did the same thing that I had done at my first agency, which was try to find print salespeople, give them really big commissions to refer their customers to us for SEO. That basically I could see like Yellow Pages seems weird today. Like you're like, obviously the Yellow Pages were going away, but like that wasn't as obvious, or like the Chicago Tribune wasn't going to be the big place. And so my whole hack was I was going to try and find the salespeople, not cold call the client, like go to the relationship people. And that was like how we grew. Like that was to get over $1 million. Like that was the way that we started off. And then I had a business. Then I had like maybe 10 people working for me or something like that. And you started to want to have things like core values for your customer. You wanted to have, like a good culture and really try to be a servant leader. And surprise, the print salespeople were not exactly like a good complement to that. More to the point, there became like a financial problem, which was they had these relationships, they got the commission, and then they didn't have more. So like you had a book, you exhausted it, but I was still paying this person for like years for the relationship they got me that now my team had. So I had no sales strategy besides this. And it came to a point where I was just like, we were making a lot of money and spending a lot of money. And I was just like, I could see the culture clash of the people who were with SearchLab with this cohort. And one day we had to like let go of all of those salespeople, which was very rough. And I sat in a coffee shop with like my main, like, a guy who helped co-found this business with me, and he was like, you won't make payroll by Friday, and I'm going to call everybody. I was like, if you don't call our clients or our people, I'll give you severance or whatever. And it was like, F that, like I'm going to call everybody. And so meanwhile, we had like, as soon as I was done, I was like texting back to my office, and we had everybody like dialing all our clients to let them know what happened. It turned out that the only client we lost was that guy's brother. It was like our client. Obviously, we're going to lose that one, but we didn't really lose any other ones. But I didn't have any sales. Like I had nothing. So it was now time for like me and one other guy pretty much to step up and start learning how to stand up a sales organization, because the whole thing that had gotten us there was gone. And those were really scary days because I did not know what I was doing. And I was just trying to like, by hook or by crook, find new sales. And I was always nervous that like, even though we got through that first period, I was always nervous that like the clients would be loyal to their sales rep, but that turned out not to be really true.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a pretty scary time.
Did you, I mean, I have to imagine imposter syndrome was everywhere at that point, especially when you were kind of the one running and building the sales engine, not having any idea what you were doing.
Yeah. And I had one other guy, Devin Martin, who in those early days, who was really helpful to me. And I don't want to make it seem like I did everything in case he tunes into this. Like, he was super helpful to me too. But yeah, it was really scary because we had a good revenue stream, but I didn't know how to get the next one. Like I was like, this was always my hack. And I've described it like, if you ever watch a rocket ship going off and they have to drop off that part, like it's like jettison this whatever part of it is. That's kind of how it felt in my journey. It was actually helpful to have those. I had to do something kind of creative in those early days. We had no money. Yeah. And that was actually a really helpful hack. I have no like, I would have done the same thing again. But once it got to a certain point, that was just not, you just couldn't have them with the current team and have any kind of team chemistry. And so it was a hard decision, but it was an easy decision.
Yeah. All right. Good stories. Now we kick into the extra innings portion. And I always say this, it's a baseball themed podcast, but this is the only real tie to baseball is that I'm calling this extra innings, and there's a little baseball bat sound that goes off in the edit. So here it is, rapid fire. I will probably want to talk after some of your answers, but here we go. What is one lesson that you've taught other people in work or life that you think that more people should hear?
You mentioned I coach football, and so I spend a lot of time with football players. I tell people, take a risk before you get married, do something, to start a business, work for the Peace Corps, do something that, because now it would be much harder for me. I have family, I have a mortgage, but in those days it was like, I think the general piece of advice, I know this is rapid fire, people way overvalue risk, and probably one of the most important lessons I've learned is, indecision's worse than wrong decision a lot. Just make a decision, go for it, take a risk. And you're young. The worst case scenario, go to when I started.
Before I got married, I'd never left the country. I wish I would have traveled the world more prior to. Now I got the bug, and we try to do it as much as possible. So good one. All right. What's something that you love talking about that drives everyone else in your life batshit crazy? I
actually asked my wife a similar question to this recently. Like, what is it? There's like an insane amount of ideas for businesses that come to my head, and I didn't do anything with any of them, but I am constantly boring people with them, and it's pretty steady, always on my mind of like, we could do this, like, and so. Hey, I wasn't bored with your latest idea. I think it's a good idea. We don't need to talk about it under wraps, but I'm basically a steady stream of that all the time, and sometimes they're better than others. Some are better than others, but yeah, it never stops. All right. What is the last thing that genuinely scared you? I just did this. So I mentioned at the beginning, I'm really new to this endurance stuff. I started basically like January 2025. I started now, so maybe 18 months of this under my belt. And I just did this hike up Mount Lemmon, which is in Tucson, Arizona. It was very hot on the ground. It actually wasn't that hot when we were hiking, but we were, close to the sun and everything like that. And there were no water fill-ups and no aid stations. So as I was doing this, it took us 16 hours, which was way longer than I expected. I thought it was going to take me like 10 hours. So it did not have enough water, and it didn't have enough food. And if you understand anything about it, you have to fuel a lot. And so it was a 20-mile hike, and we had to climb up 10,000 feet of elevation, which is a lot. And running out of water was like, shit, this is like how people really get Am I going to have to drink my own piss? Yeah. I was like, what am I going to do? And so I was like legitimately scared out there. And I was like, so like already dehydrated and didn't have enough food. So I was like not thinking well. So that was a real scary one. And thank God I was with some people who I was able to mooch their water, and they were able to like get my head right and get me through it. But that one genuinely scared me. And it's weird, but these endurance events, like the more fear I have, it's like the flip side of it is like curiosity. I'm just really interested in this. So I think there's
Yeah.
there's some time on the shrink couch for me about why I like the fear part of these endurance events so much. But that was the most recent thing.
Did you read David Goggins' book? I assume you probably did.
I read the first one. Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, there's some of his stories running those races. Is just, I don't even understand how he's still alive.
I know. He's a different level. Yeah.
Yeah, he's nuts. All right. What's one tool for work or life that you can absolutely not live without?
It's going to be sound like a cop out, but I don't mean for it to be. I am the only person who still likes to talk on the phone. So it's my phone. I mean, I tell people this all the time. Like, if I don't have if I have 5-6 phone calls, maybe Zoom's included, but I'm still a little old school in this way where I still like to be on my phone. I feel like I didn't really put in a hard day. If I don't have 5 or 6, it's like, did I really do anything today that was helpful? And so in an age where yes, Zoom is very important and we're filming on a video call or whatever, but I still think picking up the phone and calling people is, I don't know, that's still the most important tool for me, which is a bit of a cop-out answer, but most software, most software that I have, I'm not married to it. I'm loyal as long as we haven't created something else, or I could take it or leave it in a lot of cases.
I think phone's probably one of the best answers because you're spot on with it. People are not making phone calls anymore and jumping on. It's almost, I'm partly too the same. There was times where I was pounding 100 plus dials a day every day, and that was if I got anything less than that, it was a failure of a day. Obviously it's a different world today, but I don't use the phone as much anymore, so I think it's a good answer.
That's what feels like a hard work day to me, is I've had a bunch of phone calls. That is, I don't know, it's
do you actually having phone calls though? Not you don't, so if you've got 6 Zoom calls or do it throughout a day, you're not considering that a phone call. You're considering actually getting on the phone and making a phone call.
I'm lumping them together, but to me,
okay,
the phone is still if you want to reach me, let's call on the phone. I'm not defaulting to Zoom or Google Meet or something like that.
All right. What's the one truth about business that you did not believe or being an entrepreneur until you actually lived it?
I think the hardest part is the isolation is something that I don't think people really get. So you're by yourself a lot, and you need to make decisions a lot. I have 47 people who work for me now, but there are still often times where it's me by myself. And so one of the pieces of advice, especially young people, are like, hey, what should I do if I want to be an entrepreneur? I'm like, try going out to lunch by yourself and see if you like yourself. That happens. You're going to have to be by yourself, deciding things alone, in isolation, an awful lot. And I have a great team. I have an awesome leadership team who are wonderful and let me collaborate, but it's still, I think if you struggle with being alone and in your own thoughts and really working with, I tell you, I like eating lunch with myself, which is still not, it's just still strange to say. It's sort of a strange concept, but I do. And it's, I think that surprised me a little bit, is how much of my life has been really a by myself in isolation type thing. And that's probably why the endurance stuff works for me too, because it's a run or it's something to get my brain going, and it's by myself a lot of the time in the training.
I never thought about that before, the lunch by yourself. And I'm thinking, as you're telling that story, I'm thinking back to me, even before I was an entrepreneur, back when I was driving all over Kingdom Come every day, where I would literally go to Subway at a rest stop and I would sit in my car and eat lunch by myself, every single day. And it definitely prepared me that, eating lunch by yourself. So I think that's really, really good advice. I like that one. All right. You're going out for beers. You get to invite 3 people, living or dead. Who are the 3 people you're inviting?
I don't know. I think I'm a huge fan of Nick Saban, so I probably would invite a football coach, Nick Saban.
Okay.
I got to have a buddy, so either a coaching buddy, my buddy Pete's a really good buddy, or my best friend from high school, Jay, would be in there too, because I have to have somebody else to be like, how cool is this? And I'd probably want Nick Saban to talk to another football coach and or another like leadership expert. So maybe if Bill Parcells could be there. I just find him to be hilarious. And so I think Bill Parcells, Nick Saban, me and a coaching buddy just going like, oh my gosh, that'd be a pretty cool meal.
Yeah, that's good. I like that angle. Bring in your buddy so you guys can talk about it, the memories. All right, last one. First concert, last concert.
My first concert was a band. You're kind of a music head, so you probably remember these guys, but the Mighty Mighty Bosstones was like a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, I've seen them.
In the 90s.
Seen them.
That was my first show. And
were they playing by themselves?
I think so.
Or was it like at a festival?
No, it was not a festival. It was like a concert. They probably had like an opening act or something like that. But I was in 7th or 8th grade, and my uncle took us, and it was wild. So that was my first one. I think my last concert, I was hanging out with you. It was at Ravinia with Blues Traveler, and Sister Hazel was the other act. And
not Sister Hazel. You know what's funny about this, by the way? I've had friends guest on, and multiple people now, I think there were probably 3 or 4, have said my last concert was with you. So yeah, it's funny. All right, so it was Blues Travelers, Spin Doctors, and Gin Blossoms.
Yeah, those were the 3. Yeah. Same band basically. Spin Doctors, Sister Hazel, very similar. So yeah, that was my last concert, and I wish I could go to more. This is part of being like trying to make a life that's like say no a lot, as I don't get to go to as many concerts as I like.
I'll help you fill that bucket up. There's plenty of shows that I like to go to, and I'm always looking for people. All right, dude, that's it. That was it.
Did we cover everything?
I think we did pretty good. I think we did good. We got the timing down. It's good. How do anything you want to plug right now, and how do people find you?
No, I mean, like we have, you can come to my website. We have lots of webinars, blogs, a weekly video series from Greg. We have a new show from Susan Yen about PPC that she's going to crush. I'm really excited about it. And we're always out in the speaking circuit with somebody presenting. So you can probably on our website, searchlabdigital.com, find a list of upcoming shows where you could see us and get some information too. We did a huge study last year on automotive SEO that I think is the largest of its. In fact, not like I really checked this out, but I guarantee you it's the largest one of all time. We did it with our partners, Places Scout. So there's plenty of information there. And otherwise, just I'd plug EO and Mercy Home. Those are really important places to me.
There you go. All right, that is a wrap for this episode of Life's a Pitch. Big thanks to Mark for joining the show and sharing a bunch of real life stuff behind the scenes and letting me tease. Now this will be the 3rd time our runner up at the Valley Low 2024. Member guest golf outing, back for more this year.
I wish we had more time. We could tell the whole story of how it was.
It was a fun story.
Yeah, shoot off. So
we just were hitting shots that day.
That's right.
All right, good deal. All right, if you like this episode, share it, tell a friend, steal something that Mark said and make it yours. Make sure you follow. Subscribe to this show. It's super important so I can continue to grow this thing. It's still, like I always say, it's a very young show, and I want to have more amazing guests on. And the more that the people see that we have more subscribers and followers, the more they'll be likely to say yes to jumping on. So yes, make sure you go do that. And remember, behind every strategy, title, or success story, there's chaos, self-doubt, and a whole lot of trial and error. See you next time.